This is CarPervert, I'm Jonny Smith, and today I'm reviewing the Audi e-Tron Sportback. What is the Audi e-Tron Sportback, you ask? Well, it is Audi's second EV, the first one being the e-Tron. Don't look up what that means in French, because it could be rude. But basically what this car is based upon the e-Tron 95 kilowatt hour battery pack, 300 kilowatt electric motors together. There's one at the front, there's one at the back because they're Quattro, four-wheel drive. But this is the bit which makes it the Sportback, the sporty back. Slightly coupe-ish, rakish roofline with a bit of a lip spoiler here and slightly more curvaceous hips. That's the Sportback. These days people seem to like this kind of coupe SUV mashup, and that's why the Sportsback exists. This roofline here reduces headroom in the back by just 20 millimeters, so not a lot, and it does reduce the boot space by about 45 litres. Still makes the boot bigger than the Jag iPace, which is its arch rival. But the thing that Audi does say is this drives in a more sporting fashion than the e-Tron. For example, it can decouple the front drivetrain completely, so most of the time it's rear-wheel drive. That's not very Quattro, is it? But apparently it's more interesting to drive, we'll see. The other thing is this shape makes it more aero, so it's more aero efficient than the e-Tron, which means it has a little bit more range, some 7 miles WLTP of range. Now, the design. I'm stood next to the thing that I have a bit of an issue with, and these are optional. These are the cameras instead of mirrors. These are 1,500 quid, and I don't think they're worth it. I don't think they quite work. They're too big, and the screen inside is in the wrong place, but I'll come on to that when I drive the car. The rest of the design, you can see there's loads of these grooves everywhere on the e-Tron. There, down on the lower portion of the door, just below this, above this body skirt. This is to represent the bars of charge on a battery, according to Audi design. Here, yeah, it's the nice slick charging port. I know Porsche have come along with the Taycan now and done an even slicker one, but this is on both sides. On the other side it is optional, and you can only have it CCS, rapid chargeability, on one side. And on a right-hand drive car, that's this side, the driver's side. Can charge up to 150 kilowatts DC, which is the same as the regular e-Tron. Now, it's a world first apparently. Audi say they've got these digital matrix LED headlights, which are even more advanced than ever. I don't really understand what they do. What they can mask out, and they can different areas, and they can create a carpet of light right in front of you. They can also project images even. It sounds incredibly advanced.
Stop, Jonny. Shut up. We've seen matrix LED lights before on cars that automatically dip full beam dynamically for oncoming cars. This is the next gen of that tech with a much higher resolution.
The system is based on a small chip that contains more than 1 million micromirrors, each of which has an edge length of only a few hundredths of a millimetre. Electrostatic fields help tilt the mirrors up to 5,000 times per second. This position determines what happens to the light generated by the 3 LEDs. A lens system directs the light onto the street, but when a particular area should be dimmed, the necessary light is sent to an absorber that swallows it up. Far from just blocking out the light to oncoming cars, the Sportback can automatically throw down a 50-metre carpet of light on the motorway, complete with arrows overplayed on top of your usual dip beam, exactly the width of your lane to help you stay in that lane. It can widen it to exactly include the width of the next lane as you move to change lanes. It can even play animations and theoretically, I guess, films through the headlights or in monochrome, of course, should you have the desire to do that with the technology. This is the first Audi to have this light system.
Are you excited? No, not massively.
While I'm also down here, the front end has active grille, the same as the e-Tron, so it can cover up the grille for more aero when it doesn't need to cool, and it can open it up when it needs to cool. The battery packs, because they're liquid cooled. LG Chem cells, all the way under there. 95 kilowatt hours of them. So 2 motors, 408 horsepower-ish, 300 kilowatts. 241 miles WLTP, which is, it's okay. It's not brilliant, but it weighs over 2.5 tons. Under the front, you've got what we would call in the UK a fruit, a front boot, not a frunk, which is Americans viewing it would call it that. Looks like an engine compartment, but it's not. Look, it's actually a small boot where in this case Audi have used the the cables as a storage place, but without the cables you could use it. Look, it's got a light in there as well. Remember, the arch rival of this car is really seen as being the Jag I-Pace. That has a fruit as well. Then we come to the back of the car, and that's what this Sportback's all about. I have to be honest, SUVs aren't my favourite derivative of car. You know that if you're a regular to the channel. And there's been a glut of these sort of coupe, swoopy, sporty SUVs over the few years, like the BMW X6, for example, which are awful. Really, really awful. But I think this manages to pull off the look more successful than the rest. Now, the Jag I-Pace, I think, doesn't look like an SUV. It looks like a higher up hatchback. And that's this car's direct rival, really, or the Tesla Model X in its most basic long-range form. Anyway, let's have a look at the back end. That there, by the way, it's confusing, and I believe it's for the Chinese market, and it's not just on EVs, it's on all Audis, but the 55 really talks about the fact this is the 95 kilowatt hour car. There will be a lower ranking car, a 50, which will be a 71 kilowatt hour battery coming out soon. All right, let's get that done. Boot. Where is it? Actually, where is it? Oh, it's right in the middle. Okay. You didn't see that. Ta-da! That is a 615 litre boot, 1665 litres if you put the seats down. So it's actually a slightly bigger boot than the Jaguar. It's a smaller boot than its brother, because the SUV brother, the e-Tron brother, has a much squarer bum. So if you can handle this kind of cut off, more diagonal fastback shape, then yeah, that's fine. I wouldn't buy it because it's more aerodynamic. I buy it purely if you like the look of it a bit more. But in here, it's almost a flat entry point. You have got a bit of space under the floor, I noticed, in that little cubby down there. There's this weird kind of twin parcel shelf going on, which I don't quite understand. Quite a lot of space on the left and right with these netted areas here. And of course, it's really easy access. On this particular car, has air suspension, so it can rise and drop accordingly. So you could have it a bit higher or a bit lower to load stuff in if you wish. The entry-level cars will eventually have normal coil springs. Oh, and there's no exhausts, because of course there's no exhausts, because it's electric. But it's got this kind of weird, it's plastic, but it looks like brushed aluminium. And with these strange, what look like old school classic car bumper overriders. So that's the back of the e-Tron Sportback. The back of the back. Again, this little thing, Audi are very proud of this shape here. This sort of sculpted lip, this boot lip spoiler. It's quite pronounced. It's got the full bar kind of reflector and rear lights with the chasing LEDs, which a lot of Audis have had now. The thing is, it does look expensive. And that's because it is expensive. This car starts at £80,000. The car that you're looking at here with the options is £89,000. That is a lot of money, given that the base model Tesla Model X with a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack starts at 85 grand. And bear in mind the Jaguar I-Pace starts at £15,000 less than this, at 65 grand. Oh, say what you want about Audis, the cabins are glorious. They always feel special in here, and I do feel like that is why people want them. I'm sat in the back. I've set these seats exactly as how I would sit, so that's still adjusted to me. I'm quite long, 6'3". I've got tons of knee room here. It's 5-seat only. There's not a lot of transmission hump. In fact, it's about 1 inch, because although this car is not a ground-up EV like the I-Pace, it's based on the MLB Evo platform, which is an adaptation of a piston platform. It's still pretty good. The person in the middle, well, if you haven't got them in the middle, you've got this very luxurious little kind of setup here, but this is what interests me. These little dugouts for the heads here and here mean I've got what I feel to be lots of headroom and good visibility. The person in the middle probably doesn't have quite so much, but you're buying this car and you're sacrificing 20 mil of headroom on the normal e-Tron, and a bit more of a rakey back there. So if you're a dog owner, it's not going to be as good, because I doubt you're going to want to put a hound back there. But I don't feel like I've lost a great deal here. It still feels really good. You sit a lot higher than those front seats. These, by the way, are optional sport seats because this particular car is the S-Line car. Thing is though, how badly do you want a Sportback? Because it's 9 grand more than a normal e-Tron. 9 grand. Oh, you've got some USBs down here and got a very nice touchscreen for your climate control and stuff. It is good. It is good in here. And off we quietly go. Look at this. There's so much in terms of different views and technology on this car. Now, I've been driving the e-Tron Sportback for the last couple of days, just with the family, doing short journeys, couple of longer journeys, driving it a bit hard, and it's the best way to try and get your head around a new car if you can before doing a review vid. It's not always possible, but we try. One thing I will say is, I am sure this is the most refined, quietest EV I've ever driven. The loudest thing going on in here is something that I've put around here, and it's rattling today now that we're filming, and I can't work out what it is. I've tried touching everything. There's a walkie-talkie there, there's a drinks bottle because it's a hot day. So this car is made of a multitude of materials, steel, aluminium and composites. It's not a pure aluminium car like the Jag iPace is. It's not a ground up EV like the Jag iPace is. Something back there is rattling and it's really annoying me because there is nothing back there, but it's something I've put in the car. I think this is definitely the most refined EV, the quietest EV I've ever driven. The level of soundproofing is off the scale. I looked at a cutaway diagram which I'll try and put in here. It shows where all the microfiber fleece and all of the wadding, it gone to huge efforts to make this feel like a very, very plush, silent, refined experience, and they have absolutely nailed that. Now, when I drove the e-Tron originally, this car's bigger brother, more sensible, slightly cheaper brother, I was a little bit disappointed in some ways. I just felt like it was a bit top heavy, a bit lollopy and soft. It very, very much felt like a heavy car. What Audi have said about this is definitely for a more sporting ride, driving experience. As I said before, it can decouple the front axle and be most of the time rear wheel drive, which is un-Quattro, but makes sense for efficiency. These are asynchronous motors, whereas most motors are synchronous, these are asynchronous. The cells are LG Chem, and the combined power is 300 kilowatts of the motors. Now what you can do is when you've got this is a beautiful, make sure there's no one here, yeah, check my weird mirrors. This is a lovely like wrist pad, ergonomic kind of wrist pad, and you've got your little shuffle button here to go into drive and reverse and neutral and stuff. But if you shift it back when you're already in drive, it goes to S mode, and then you get your boost, which is your extra power. So it defaults to less power in normal driving conditions. And this will do 0 to 62 now in 5.7 seconds. So it ain't blisteringly quick. This is what it feels like. Okay, it feels significantly more responsive. That was 62. You can feel I've got a few things jiggling around in the center console, but you know, that's it takes a little bit of time to get this bulk, this 2.5 tons of mass going. It is slower than a Tesla Model X. and it doesn't go as far as a Tesla Model X in terms of range. And this is an expensive car. I'm not going to sit here in front of you and tell you that it's good value, because I don't necessarily think it is good value. So this car starts at £79,000. It's expensive, and you can get properly carried away with your options. You know, I got in and thought, great, it's got a panoramic roof which you can open. Yeah, it's 1,400 and something quid. Oh, I quite like the orange calipers behind those 21-inch wheels. Yeah, they're 425 quid just to have some orange paint. And the door cameras, not mirrors, cameras, they're nearly £1,500 on option. They don't come as standard. So you can soon option this thing up to the hilt. This Navara blue paint, I think that's 750 quid. This particular car that I'm sat in is £88,000. £88,000, which makes it more than the entry-level Tesla Model X, which starts at 85 grand, which will do way more miles on one charge, and it's quicker to 62, but it looks like a computer mouse. So it depends what your priorities are. Having driven this thing around for a few days to try and work out its level of efficiency, it's not a massively efficient EV. I've struggled to get more than about 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour, which is not great. However, it is a heavy car. It's obviously more aerodynamic than its brother, but it's still a big SUV with a lot of front to push through the air, and it's 2.5 tons, and it's on, you know, wide, big 21-inch wheels. So just like the iPace, it isn't the most efficient choice of EV, but it is sporting. It does feel sporting, and it certainly feels like its brakes and stuff like that have a better chance of coping when they're used really hard, unlike a Tesla Model X. So I've got all kinds of choices along here. I've got, I can scroll through my views. I can scroll in and out of my, look at that, I can change the iCockpit to various different derivatives. I've got the big map now, and I've got the small speed and the small energy usage. There's loads of stuff you can play with. Down here you have a screen with haptic feedback, and that is for your climate control, that is for your heated seats and your hill descent mode and all that kind of thing, should you want that. And actually probably, oh no, your cruise control is here on a stalk, and this is your infotainment, your settings for the car, your mood lights, your radio, your apps. That's where all this is here. And I've had a little fiddle with it. It's pretty easy to get your head around. Audi's MMI multimedia interface, I think it stands for, is pretty good, even for thickies like me. I've warmed to the e-Tron Sportback way more than I thought I would, and it's a lot better for some reason, despite the fact it's more compromised, than the original e-Tron. If you're a really keen driver, you're a driving enthusiast, I would say that the iPace Jag is a sharper tool than this, and it also has a higher range on paper than this, and it's a lot cheaper than this. So if you're a hardcore driver, I would consider that before this. If you just love beautiful, sumptuous cabins, and that's the most important thing, refinement and quiet, this is a fine example. If you're a child watching this and your parents let you choose the cars for them, you're probably going to go for a Tesla Model X because it has Falcon doors and it dances and it does crazy stuff, and I totally get that. I understand that. That's great. But it leaves me still going, this is a damn expensive car. A damn expensive car. But what it will do is that badge there has such a power, has such a draw. I think what this car will do above all others is it will take people out of big, heavy, fancy piston SUVs and get them into big, fancy, heavy, electric powered SUVs. And that can only be a good thing for everybody. I'm going to throw a third element into this verdict, and that's my own little weird mind ticking away, because the whole time I've been driving this I've been thinking, why wouldn't you buy a Polestar 2 instead? It's less than £50,000. It's no less stylish. It drives round corners better. It goes further on one charge and it's quicker. You could buy a Polestar 2 with a few options and a Honda E brand new with a couple of options, and you'd still have spent less money than that. What a two-car garage. Anyway, that's just me with my strange mind. Thanks so much for watching. I do really appreciate everyone who has subscribed already, and if you're a Patreon and you support me with a Patreon subscription, thank you so much. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I will leave a link in the description below. Anyway, adios, ciao, goodbye.